friends, and welcome once again to Wisely Well Wednesday. Next week is Women's Day, and the whole of March we will be celebrating Women's Day. So today at Nature Nurtures, we decided to celebrate, to support, and honor a great man for Women's Day. Surprised? You got it right. We are going to celebrate a man on Women's Day. Why? Because he was a great man. And if you are patient and follow us through to the end, you will realize why he was so great. But before I talk about him and his work, let me take you down history lane into pre-independent India. In pre-independent India, there is a big plot in our history. This is the atrocities and abuse that child widows, young widows, or widows of India faced. You see, in those days, child marriages were prevalent. Little girls, young girls were married to sometimes old men or young men. Mortality rate was high because infections were rampant. To plague and other illnesses, men died, even women died. But if a man died and his little child bride or his young bride became a widow, her head had to be shaven off and she had to wear a red cloth like the one I'm carrying as a stroll. This is a stroll for me today, but this was her entire garment in those days. And the barber who came to shave off her head was often the first man to rape her. And after that, this helpless child, this helpless girl widow was an easy target to abuse, sexual abuse of every random man in the house. Their atrocities, their abuse, their plight would have gone unsaid if not for the courage of one single man who stood courageously and promoted the widow remarriage. Yes, dear friends, we are talking about Maharshi Karve, Dhondo Keshav Karve, who was lovingly honored and called Maharshi, a great sage, Maharshi Karve. Not only did he promote widow remarriage, he led by example. He married a widow. And for that, society then ostracized him. He was an educator at heart, and he believed that the only way women can be empowered is through education. He founded the SNDT University and the Maharshi Karve Stri Shikshan Samsthan. There's a lot of work he did then, and his work still continues. Dear friends, so this man stands tall. The Hingde school is famous for all. Now you might say, Dr. Priya, what is your involvement in this? Why are you so spirited about it? Well, first, I'm a woman. Second, I'm a Maharashtrian, and it is my proud legacy. Third, you see, my mom lost her mother when she was 3, and she was brought up by a Bodki Aji. We used to call them Bodki Aji. I didn't know Bodki means shaven off. Those of you who have followed me know that this year I shaved my head 3 times. The first was to show solidarity to all women with cancer who lose their hair and their confidence. The second was to support young pubertal girls, lactating and pregnant mothers and menopausal women who lose their hair to various hormonal reasons and lose their confidence, their self-esteem just because they have lost their hair. I was trying to make a statement which says that a woman is beautiful the way she is, with or without her hair. But the third time I shaved off, and this time my husband shaved off my hair, was to show solidarity and in honor of all those Bodki Ajis, all those young girls who were ostracized, who were abused in the name of widowhood. Today, we have with us 2 ladies with a big heart who run a big organization called Big at Heart. These 2 wonderful ladies, Nalini Thitte and Asmita Tarwarkar. Nalini, those of you who are from Maharashtra Mandal know her as the president of Maharashtra Mandal. But this lady is an engineer from India. She is a dynamic woman, powerhouse. She is an entrepreneur. She works for an IT company, and she is the support behind a very dynamic organization called Trekkers at Heart. If all of you know Vivek Vaidya and Trekkers at Heart, well, this is the support because of which that happened. So Vivek, I think gratitude ought to come right back here, because behind every successful man stands a strong woman. So this strong woman, along with her friend, decided to form the Big at Heart organization. And through that, they have been working with Maharshi Karve's Stri Shikshan Samsthan. Now you see, if I am there today, a dynamic woman, it is because a Bodki Aji raised my mother. If not for her efforts, my mother wouldn't have grown. And if not for my mother, I wouldn't have been. So all of us who are empowered, we stand on the shoulders of women of past. And on our shoulders, we should carry the women of future. So if you might say, okay, that is what Maharshi Ji did in the past, what about today? How can we empower the women of today? Well, she is going to talk about Maharshi Karve, Stri Shikshan Samsthan in gist, and she has a very beautiful story because her mother was directly involved with it. Over to Nalini.
Thank you, Priya, for giving us this opportunity and allowing us to talk about this great man, this great organization that he founded, the enormous work that he did. And as you rightfully said, we all stand on his shoulders and the shoulders of all those women who made it big. And coincidentally, so as you were talking about your Vodki Aji, uh, my Aji also had to, my grandma also had to go through a similar fate, though times were slightly different and she didn't have to shave her head. But my mother lost her father at the age of 12, and the entire family got strewn apart. Five children, no education. My grandma had to keep them away in some orphanages and some places. So my mother, being the luckiest one, got to get admitted to Maharshi Karve's Sri Shikshan Samstha. And it so happens that this was 3 years after Karve passed away. So the legacy of his name, his honor, his dignity was still very, very alive out there and still alive right now also. She was lucky to be going there and having her education. What is more important is that um, she educated herself, she made a career, she got married, she gave birth to me, brought me up the right way. But not even once did I hear from her about her plight or her misery. She was always proud of her school, and it was an immense pride for even me. She stayed in the hostel. She learned cooking in the hostel. She learned all her life skills in the hostel, and she feels enormously proud to belong to that school.
खरं सांगायचं तर ह्यांच्या आईचं माहेर हिंगण्याची शाळा
हिंगण्याची हिंगण्याची शिक्षण संस्था आहे.
Maher is mother's house. So her mother's house or her naniyal or her nanaji's house or her maternal grandparents' home would be that shara. Because that school, like she said, taught everything. I would like her to really tell us more about what is the work that Stri Shikshan does today.
सो महर्षी कर्वे स्त्री शिक्षण संस्था खूपच प्रिया तुम्ही म्हणालात तसं SNDT हे कॉलेज पण त्यांनी स्थापन केलंय, इंजिनिअरिंग कॉलेजेस स्थापन केले आहेत पुण्यातच नाही, नॉट जस्ट इन पुणे हिंगणे श्री शिक्षण संस्था, बट there are a lot of institutes across Maharashtra that they have found, and they support a lot of young girls. It is a school meant completely for girls. They support 2-3 types of girls who are either from low income families or do not have parents. So orphan girls, destitute girls with no parents, no guardians or single guardian, and also girls who are from very poor background and are not able to sustain the education. अशा सगळ्या मुलींना महर्षी कर्वे स्त्री शिक्षण संस्था त्यांच्या हॉस्टेलमध्ये ठेवून घेते, शिक्षण देते आणि त्यांच्या फीचा, त्यांच्या राहण्याचा सगळा खर्च हा डोनेशन मधनं रेज केला जातो. सो पीपल लाईक यू अँड मी, वी सपोर्ट द गर्ल्स टू स्टँड ऑन देअर फीट, टू have a brighter tomorrow. And as you know, you would be able to elaborate more on, and we all know that a woman educated is yes, like a society educated.
You educate a woman, you educate a family, you educate a family, you educate a society. That is the norm. And can you imagine, I mean, if you see Nalini today, it is because of her mother. And if you see her mother today, it is because of the Hingnachi Shara. because of Maharshi's work and his dedication. And usually, when a person passes away, after a few years, that organization loses the value of that person. But she was explaining to me that even today, as a he, if you go to Himne, people want to work for his legacy, are afraid that if they make a mistake, they will hurt his feeling. The man has passed away in 62. So many years have rolled by, but his legacy still continues. Today, we don't have child widows because child marriage is abolished. But we still have vulnerable girls. We still have young girls who are out there homeless in the streets. What would happen if somebody's parents committed a crime, were put in the jail? What would happen to the children? A next generation of criminals? Don't you think we should stop that? Don't you think we owe it to society? And you see, whenever there is rape in India or anywhere in the world and the news comes rape, all of us are so angry. Calm down your anger. Ask yourself, what can I do to stop this rape? What can I do such that girls are not vulnerable? And to help such girls and to help such causes, Nalini and Asmita came together to form an organization which is called Big at Heart. Asmita is again an ex-president of Maharashtra Mandal, and again the Maharashtra Mandal people will know her as a dynamic president. She's a great dancer. I have seen her dance. She's a great entrepreneur. She runs her own consultancy, and she is again a very, very dynamic, empowered woman. But she grew up in India always thinking that if you are privileged, you are fortunate, you owe it to the less fortunate. It is your responsibility, your duty to give it back to those who don't have what you have. So, with that, these two friends came together, and I would like to ask Asmita to talk a little more about the work and the ideation and how they are going about supporting causes in Singapore, which is our Karma Bhumi, and in India, which is our Janma Bhumi, through Big at Heart.
Thank you, Dr. Priya. Once again, thank you for the invite. And it is absolutely a pleasure and honor to share not just about MKSSS, which is Maharshi Karve Shri Shikshan Samstha, but Big at Heart. Big at Heart, the way it started was in the COVID times. Few of us friends, actually 6 of us, we came together and did a drive for migrant workers. We all know the
Yes,
difficulties
yes.
that Singapore and migrant workers went through, and how everybody opened their hearts and pockets for our brothers from India. And the drive was quite successful. And then that gave root to doing something big. We realized that we have this I won't call it power, but this ability to harness, to bring together people, bring out the good in them, and then harness this energy towards something useful. So Nalini and I have been, I like to say it, in partners in crime. When we got together and we said that now let's use this and take it a step forward, and that's where the Big at Hat was formed. Now the first cause that we thought of supporting, because of again Nalini's story and the way she said her mother was the luckiest to be at MKSSS, uh, absolutely we didn't look around anywhere. We knew where we wanted to start, and that's how we started supporting MKSS. I would like to share one very short anecdote. One of the first donations that we received was from somebody from Pune. I won't name the person, but the message that she said was, "Maharshinmuळेच आपण आहोत ना." These were the words.
We are because of Maharshi.
These were the words, and that's so true. And that's what, like you said, his legacy remains. That's what so many people still believe, so many women still believe, that because he did something, we are there today. So that was very inspiring for us, and all the messages and donations and support that we get is always very inspiring. So that's when we started supporting MKSSS. So we are supporting them in, I mean, if somebody else wants to support them, there are two major programs. One is the fees, because COVID मुळे we know everybody's livelihood is affected. There are orphans, there are single parents, farmers त्यांच्या मुली असतात. So त्यांना आता, because they don't have jobs anymore, the sources of income are not there anymore. The fees of these girls cannot be paid, and then their education might stop, or they might have to take up something else to support their education. So we don't want that to happen. So we thought we should support these girls in times of COVID. The other program is there are some court affected girls, like you mentioned a while ago, that
Children
if
of
you're
criminals.
yeah, children of criminals. Daughters of criminals are housed at the hostel. There are about 120 of them currently, and they are totally dependent on MKSS for right from their food to their education, to their clothes, to every little thing. So we try to support the meals for these girls, and we are running an initiative for that. We were also, I would say, we also managed to get support from PNG to get sanitary pads for these girls.
Yes, very
So,
important.
Which is a day-to-day need, which is still probably not spoken about as openly as it should be. But yes, it's a need and it has to be fulfilled. So we managed to get support for about 6 months of sanitary pads with these girls who are staying in the hostel. And then once that is over, we'll come to you for support for that as well. But that's what we've been doing in terms of MKSSS. In Singapore itself, after that drive which we conducted, we did a Diwali drive for the migrant workers here. Then for Christmas, we did a drive for the cleaners who work here, the conservatory workers.
Yes.
So our focus is to support the needy families, needy people in whatever way we can. And
See,
yes.
need has got no country. Need in Singapore, need in India, need in Pakistan, need in Sri Lanka, need in Europe, need in America is need. Homelessness has no definition. The same plight a homeless person in California would face as a homeless person in the streets of India. So wherever we are, we can reach out. I only reach out to those places where I know firsthand that my money or whatever I am giving or my goods are reaching the right source and the right place. See, we spend so much on the education of our children. I'm a mother, and all of you out there we know for their classes. A fraction of that, if we give, we can support the education of a girl child. Just a part of that, if we send out to feed those who have a hungry belly or sustain feeding. Such institutes can only survive if donation comes from the large-hearted. And all of you out there are large-hearted. See, can you see what I'm wearing today? This is called as a kudi. Kudi is real pearls strung in a certain way. This belonged to my Borki Achi. They were given to her when she got married. But the poor thing never wore it right. Because within few years, the girl child lost her husband. And for no fault of hers. This my mother gave me. And this will always remind me that if I stand today, I stand because of her. If we are empowered today, we are because of all those who stood down so that we could stand up. And we have to stand down so that somebody else stands up. So meal. If you can't afford more, just one meal. Many meals. A year full of meals. Sanitary pads or some shampoo, soap. The migrant workers here, the homeless girls there, it doesn't matter. Where your heart says give, just give. Make it big, open it up, and believe me, when you give, you get manyfold in terms of happiness. Just one tiny act of giving sends ripples of happiness all around you. सगळीकडे आनंद स्प्रेड होतो. आनंदाची डोही आनंद तरंग. That's how it happens. So just open your hearts. And nobody, absolutely nobody, can say, I can't afford. All of us who stay here can afford. I've shared this story of a boy in Indonesia who shared his flute, his only wear, with my son. To give, you really don't need money to give. All you need is a good, big heart. So I would really like to thank Asmita and Nalini for coming here, sharing their story. And yes, my big pranam to Maharshi Karve and to her mother who raised her up with such values, and to both of them for having come here with a big heart, big at heart. May their work continue, and may तुम्ही सगळ्यांनी, not just Maharashtrians, all over, reach out. Let's make Maharshi's dream come true. Let's empower tomorrow's women today. Thank you and have a great Women's Day, a great woman empowered one. Thank you, thank you. But before we go, as always, a tiny gift of appreciation. Zero waste hamper. We create these zero waste hampers. I had written their name. So that there is no waste created after gifting. Every bit of this can be used. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for coming. Really, really grateful. To all of you there listening, love you. Stay fine.